Good morning and welcome to the Daily Cyber Briefing for Wednesday, the 19th of February. I'm Stephen Ridgway. Well, what a boring day in cyberspace at the moment, eh? Absolutely nothing of any interest has happened. Oh, and I've just managed to close one of the tabs I want to talk about. Which one was that? Yeah, right. So, CISA has added Palo Alto Networks and Sonic Wall flaws to the exploited vulnerabilities list. So the flaws in question are CVE 2025-0108 and 2024-53704. By now, if you haven't patched your Palo Alto or your Sonic Wall devices, assume they've been compromised. North Korea's KimSuky group has is well. It's why am I bringing this to your attention? Well, the answer is not because we're particularly worried about the North Koreans attacking. Well, we are worried about the North Koreans attacking the South Koreans. Oh, I can see I'm off on one of these today. Right. Yes, we are because North Korea, not nice people, want to bring down the West. Very determined to undermine South Korea, who are at least generically allies of those of us that live and work in this part of the world. Right. So, however, the more important thing is it's a very good example of what happens with sort of modern phishing attacks and how a lot of the components involved in the compromises that start as phishing, a lot of the components involved in the chain are actually common, living off the land. I don't like that phrase, but they are not specifically written malware in any way at all. They're just using stuff that we all use, but using it against us. So if you want to see a good graphical representation of the flow that results in compromise, there is an article in Dark Reading that talks about this particular group. The KimSuky campaign, using PowerShell scripts and Dropbox folders, PDFs, you name it, and in the end, uses .NET as a significant part of the actual compromise. It's worth having a look at, mainly because you need to be aware that if you're defending against these sorts of things, you need to be aware that triggering against malware may not actually be of much use where there is no or very little actual malware involved in the chain of attack. So have a look at these and just ask yourself the question when you're looking at this: would my security visibility solution or my SIEM alert on an attack chain of this sort? And if not, then that could be the task for the second half of this week. Have a think about what you would need to do in order to not just specifically catch this attack, but catch these sorts of generic attacks. And get them to the attention of people who will triage them and look into them properly quickly. And then finally from me, like I said, not a very interesting day today, not a lot to talk about. However, some good news if you're Polish. There is an article in Reuters that points out that Microsoft is about to invest $700 million to boost Poland's cybersecurity. much to the pleasure of Donald Tusk, according to the photograph that they've put on this article. But it demonstrates, I think, that there is an understanding that nation state security actually does matter. Why am I talking about this? Well, I mean, we're in the UK, so the UK has long-standing connections with Poland, and and certainly up until Brexit, the UK was a common destination for Polish people wanting to live and work outside of Poland. I think perhaps that's may have changed a little now, but I don't know. But as I say, there's the long-standing connections between the UK and Poland, but equally. We are as of the last couple of weeks, we're in a state of significant flux in European security. And yes, okay, the UK is outside of the European Union, but I think the European Union becomes broadly irrelevant as soon as we're talking about this level of, the European Union couldn't organise itself to defend it, couldn't defend itself. No matter how hard it tries. But the individual countries within Europe, I think, do have the ability to make sensible decisions. However, most important thing is it looks increasingly likely that Donald Trump is about to sell out Ukraine to the Russians. Europe, as a political entity and as a collection of individual nation states, including the UK, have wholeheartedly failed to do anything that would prevent this sellout. I have some sympathy with the things that JD Vance was saying at the security conference in Munich around Europe has not been pulling its weight and has just been relying on the US to sort out its problems at this level for a very long time. And I have some sympathy with the US saying, do you know what? Really, can't you stand on your own 2 feet yet? I am, though, exceedingly concerned about the message that that the current discussions send to Putin, specifically, not Russia, but so much Putin. I think Trump believes he is the de facto leader of the world and can dictate to Putin what happens in this scenario. I don't think that's true. I think Putin will take the win, which actually appears potentially through his lens, looks like a capitulation of the West. So what happens if you invade another country and then just belligerently not negotiate a peace? Well, you get to keep everything that you've succeeded in getting up to that point. The US will then force your victory on the invaded country. Why would you not then repeat this later? I think in Ukraine, if we get an enforced peace that's stitched up by the US and by Trump and Putin, in 10 years' time, if not earlier, we'll simply see the whole thing repeated all over again. But it does mean that what guarantees have any of the other countries in Europe got that if a similar thing were to happen, we could rely on at least a reasonable amount of support from the US, and I no longer feel like that's the case. So seeing that Microsoft has decided to invest in Poland's cybersecurity is interesting, because it's Microsoft, it's not the US government that's doing this stuff. I think it's, although the ins and outs of the politics of this stuff, you may not agree with me on these things, and I think that's a good, it's probably a good thing. We need diversity of thought in this arena. However, I think it's something that we all should be aware of, especially in cybersecurity, because the prelude to or as part of any aggressive actions by any nation state involves a great deal of disruption via cyber offensives, and we need to be cognizant of that. We need to be in a position where we are looking to defend ourselves against these things. I've said before, working in a previous organisation, running through a well-known risk assessment, cyber risk assessment methodology for one of my customer organisations. It very clearly came out saying nation-state adversaries were the biggest risk. That particular organisation's CISO, who was, I think, president or founder of the particular group that came up with the risk methodology, laughed and said, "Oh, nation state stuff. Nobody cares about nation state stuff. No, it's a load of rubbish." Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, well, let's see how well that works out for you guys. Right. Okay, that's enough of a rant for today. I wish you all a good Wednesday, and I will speak to you all again tomorrow morning.